We are always certain that the day will end, but we are less certain that the night will end and the sun will reappear. In some countries, they tear out the hearts of women every night to help the day dawn again. Apparently, it works. At least, it will for as long as women have hearts.
When Alexander the Great went off to war, he always took along his trusted philosophers. One day, one of them met an Indian wise man and asked him which came first, the day or the night. The Indian answered, the day, but it only preceded the night by a day. Many people have wondered what the night was made of. The ancient Romans believed that the night was material, a substance which rose from the earth every evening to spread through the air and darken it. They also believed that this substance enters our molecules, dims us, makes us sleep and dream. And when day returns, it evaporates.
glad you came. Shall we go to my room?
Yes, but a walk in the moonlight first.
Now stay.
Shall I shut the window?
Not just yet. Undress me. What are you doing here?
Admiring your skill.
I was only trying to frighten it. I hate being waked out of a sound sleep.
What if it comes back?
I have more arrows. What do you want?
To spend some time with you.
In my bedroom?
Yes.
At this time of night? How excessive.
Do I understand that my visit is inopportune? Perhaps it is inconvenient.
Why inconvenient?
No doubt you're expecting someone else.
And I thought you might be planning a sleepless night, but not with me.
With whom, then?
Monsieur, at supper you were surrounded by 4 women whom you already possess. I imagine they still have designs on you. Your embarrassment amused me. Monsieur, stand over there or get out.
Yes, madame.
Really, monsieur, you had no rendezvous tonight?
And you expected no visitors?
Me? It never entered my mind.
And I swear I didn't give a thought to any of the women in your house tonight.
Not even Armand?
Armand, you're joking. Anyway, it was wicked of you to invite her here.
Are you trying to make me believe you don't know why she's here already, or the other 2?
Did they press you for an invitation?
I won't tell you. You might feel flattered.
I know it would be foolish to pretend that I haven't possessed any of them, but what does that matter now, to them or to me?
Stay, Justine, over there. What do you mean, what does that matter?
You know perfectly well.
You can speak for yourself, perhaps, but what do you know about them?
How can people brought together for a brief moment by chance and impulse remember anything they took so lightly? I was dining with the woman not long ago, and on the point of leaving, she remarked that we had once loved each other tenderly.
I'm surprised it was she who recognized you. People say we women forget such escapades more easily than men do.
I think both sexes have equally short memories.
But it's more peculiar in a woman.
It probably depends on what a woman has to sacrifice. I'm sure one could find women who have forgotten completely.
I prefer to think that's impossible. You do remember Armand, at least.
Unfortunately.
Tell me about it.
Oh, I can't do that.
Why all the
mystery.
As long as she's in the room, I can't.
Justine is very discreet.
I don't doubt that your secrets are safe in her hands, but I will only put mine in yours.
She can't hear you. She's asleep.
Her presence disturbs me. If you want to hear my story, make sure we're alone.
Alone? Never.
As you wish.
All right, as you wish, then. Justine? Justine? You see, she was asleep. Justine! Justine, you can go to bed now.
At what time does Madame want me in the morning?
At the usual time, of course.
I'll wait for Madame to ring.
Did you hear what she said? That's what you're exposing me to.
Put yourself in my place, madame.
And you put yourself in mine. That girl was certain when she left my room that we had a rendezvous.
Then she has an evil mind.
If you heard that one of the men staying in my house had spent the night in my room, would you be generous enough to believe we did nothing but gossip?
Justine knows perfectly well there's nothing between you and me.
So you don't love Armand? But you did make love to her.
That's different.
People these days do say that makes a difference.
Not just these days.
I thought we owed the idea to modern philosophy.
Modern philosophy has rectified our thinking, that's a fact. We reason better, we know the motives for our acts. We did the same things before, but we were carried along on the tide, intimidated by morality. And now, at last, we are happy in knowing the truth. Women in society have never frowned so little. We attract each other, we take each other. If we're bored, we walk out. And if the attraction revives, we come together again as merrily as the first time.
What about love, monsieur?
It's true that love has no place in all this. But what is love? A desire. We choose to exaggerate a sensual impulse we call a virtue. Nowadays, we know that there is only appetite.
Yet we still say, I love you.
It's a polite way of asking for what we need, because we couple without love, we can part without hate. Our sorrows are soon dulled, our whims instantly satisfied.
Have you never suffered?
Yes, a woman once made me suffer. A woman I adored, yet today there is no one to whom I feel so supremely indifferent.
Be careful. If you still feel so much hatred for someone you once loved dearly, your heart is far from mended.
If hate heals nothing, why is love so feared?
Because it is blind, as you well know. It has no respect for rank. A king can suddenly fall madly in love with a shepherdess.
Or a shepherd.
Your fine philosophy can be risky.
I know. In France, we persecute those who sound the alarm, not those who set the fire.
I must inform you that because of your licentious writings, the dangerous company you keep, and your persistent insolence towards constituted authority, you have been consigned to the king's justice.
I had higher hopes for tonight. You too, perhaps.
Shortage of prisoners, you should know that.
You must have been miserable.
Yet I had an experience in that cell, madame, that I shall never forget.
I'm sure you will.
Write to me.
What's so extraordinary about that? Did you write to her?
The whole story.
A licentious story, I suppose.
It could be called a love story. Would you like to hear it?
No, I'm in no mood for fiction. What I want to hear about is your affair with Armand.
I dislike talking about that.
Come now, don't hide things from me.
I can't understand your curiosity. Affairs of this sort are so trite. If you hear about one, you know them all.
You had her, I know you did. What more is there to hear but the details?
I went to Julie's house in the country. I did everything possible to dispel my melancholy. My heart was still broken, but it was healing. With every passing day, my freedom grew more burdensome. I was dying to start over again.
With whom?
With you, madame, but you were still in love with the Vicomte. I made myself keep silent.
You did the right thing.
Yes, despite all the times he betrayed you, I thought it my duty to say nothing of my desires or his infidelity.
You knew about his betrayals?
And was wounded by them, I assure you.
My God, what a fantastic feeling love is. When I look at that man now with utter indifference, I wonder how he could once have had such power over me. If I ever fall in love again, I shall never reveal it to the object of my affections.
That would be cruel.
Must I wait forever? You're insufferable. Go on with your story.
You know Armand. Her vulgar familiarity, her coquettish ways. We are libertines, and that left me no way to defend myself from her. She tempted me. I thought she was ripe for a brief tryst, and I said frankly lascivious things to her. We happened to pass a small, dark patch of woods.
No. No.
Unwittingly, we became separated from the group. I thought this a fitting place to take liberties with her. I suddenly seized her around the waist. She begged me to stop, and yet, with admirable patience, allowed me to continue. I felt her press against me. And then suddenly... Suddenly, she was stricken. She swooned. She lay sprawled on the ground. seeing her there at my feet, I basically took advantage of the condition I had reduced her to.
What? You did that?
I still feel horribly ashamed.
I know Armand has had a few affairs. She is reputed to be easy, but that she could be so thoughtless, so unprincipled. You amaze me. What happened then?
I am polite. I thought it seemly to offer an apology. She was enchanted with it and insisted on hearing it again in her room after everyone else had gone to bed.
The affair did not exactly start on a note of deep feeling.
She didn't expect it of me. Yet, for the rest of the evening, she treated me with appalling tenderness. Everyone finally went to bed, and I went to her room as early as I could.
To her room?
Could I break my word? She was waiting for me. I found her in bed. All she asked was that I put out the candles.
No, monsieur. Not here.
And close the curtains. I refused. We started to become familiar. I came close to her. All of a sudden, she recalled that I had not yet said that I loved her. I assured her she could not doubt my feelings.
Did you tell her you loved her?
The evidence I offered her could not be misinterpreted. At once, she became infinitely tender, lively, passionate. If only you could have seen it, Madame. It was beautiful.
Skip these details. And then?
Then I became intimate with my neighbor without ever seeing her.
What neighbor?
That woman in prison, of course. I wrote to her, she replied. All I ever saw were the tips of her fingers.
Perhaps she was horribly ugly or very old.
I don't think so.
Please, go back to Armand's room.
Only to please you. What is there about Armand that could possibly interest you?
About Armand, nothing.
About me, then?
Not about you either. I'm amused by the vicissitudes of love. So what did you do in her room?
Unfortunately, I'm very curious. I was determined to know if she was as indebted to nature as she seemed to think she was.
Meaning?
I wanted to see her naked. My request deeply wounded her modesty.
Rather odd scruples, considering...
I assure you, she didn't want to, but I was determined. I wanted to so willfully that she had to acquiesce. Madame.
What?
Such a monster.
You surprise me. Her bosom may not be perfect.
Believe me, she fulfills none of the delights she seems to promise.
Why did she show herself then? After all the men she's had, she must have known what she looked like.
Men are well-mannered about these things. We usually leave a woman without trying to humiliate her.
It should have occurred to you that although few men have failed to possess her, not one has ever boasted of it. Well, what did you do then?
I could neither satisfy her nor run away.
Flight would have been wiser.
Oh, yes.
You must at least have found a few of the charms in her that generally inspire you.
She has none of them.
I cannot believe it.
I didn't know what to do with that fat lady, and our conversation languished.
What about her ecstasy, her liveliness?
She counterfeited all that passion.
Counterfeited? Why?
Kindliness on her part, or habit, or deceitfulness to make me think she loved me. She refuses to believe she is by nature less fortunate than other women, less sensitive, if you prefer. She always thinks the next man to take her will arouse in her the passion she so longs for. She pretends what she cannot feel.
It has been proven, I am told, that the women who pursue the pleasures of love most frantically are the ones who savor them least.
I know that as well as you, and I find it harder than you do to understand.
Why are you weeping? Has anyone struck you? Have you been sentenced? Are you being taken away from here? Answer me. I am weeping for you.
What did she mean?
I don't know.
Were you frightened?
A little, yes.
Did you try to get to know her?
I tried every way I could, but I failed. I was never allowed out. I even sent for a painter friend of mine.
A painter?
He was already there. I asked him to draw the woman's face. She agreed.
What did she look like?
She wore a mask, a leather mask.
She was probably someone important.
Yes, to me she was.
That drawing must have been repulsive.
On the contrary, everything about it attracted me. I examined each object, every detail in the drawing in a gown. I imagined what sort of person she was, what life she led. I seemed to hear her breathe through the mask.
The woman tortured you.
Perhaps.
I suppose you have asked to see me because you want to know why you have been imprisoned.
No, I know why.
Well then,
I want to know who the woman is in the cell next to mine.
I cannot tell you who she is. It's a state secret.
At least give me a hint, a name, a face.
Nothing. I'm sorry. Taking back to his cell. Please. Please. That chair, do you know what it's for?
No.
It's what used to be called the boot, a relic of a more brutal age. Sit down in it. Don't be afraid, sit down.
They didn't torture you, I hope.
Not exactly, madame. Not exactly.
This is how the splints were attached, on both legs, naturally. Then the first wedge was put in place. This one, I think. The hammer falls. You begin to feel the pain. It can be very acute. Then the second wedge is inserted, slightly larger, you see. The hammer comes down here. Now, the pressure begins to crush the ligaments and cartilage. Blood spurts from your big toes. And sometimes the nails suddenly drop off. The soles of your feet split open, and you see a sort of mash of blood and fat come out. The pain gets worse, of course. You begin to scream and beg. But if you are a brave man, you still refuse to confess. You may lose consciousness. These are smelling salts to revive you with. Then the final wedge is inserted. This one, much bigger than the others. And it is pounded in with this heavy mace. At the first blow, your knees and ankles crack. You clearly hear the bone snapping. There is no relief for the pain. With the second blow, your legs split open from end to end. You see bone fragments mixed with flesh and blood. You can't help screaming. The executioner has to gag you, and that is suffocating. Very few still refuse to confess at this point. What's more, even if you talk, your interrogator will have to submit you to the question again and again to be sure your confession is truly sincere.
Did you confess?
I hadn't been asked to, but some confessions must come easily.
And others are totally impossible.
I'm amazed at the strange path truth used to take. Today, we are less barbarian, more refined. Look what we received from Italy.
A maze?
Yes, isn't it beautiful? Suspects are released inside. And allowed to remain lost for hours. From time to time, a guard stops them and asks if they are ready to confess. If they refuse, he doesn't touch them. He simply leaves them in the labyrinth. I'm told the results are quite remarkable.
The governor, he's the sort of man who would burn down your house to cook an egg. That day I disappointed him. I didn't say a word.
Are you shivering? You seem to be freezing.
The night is turning cold. This is all I'm wearing.
Do you mean to say you're naked underneath it?
As naked as a worm.
How could you think of appearing before me like that?
I am deeply ashamed. I wasn't sure I would visit you. I wanted to come, but at the same time, I didn't want to. I was convinced you had a rendezvous, and that tormented me. My mind was such a blur that I didn't think about the state I was in.
It is unspeakably callous.
Forgive me. You know how much I respect you.
About Armand, did you have her long?
Longer than I should have. 5 or 6 days, I
A
believe.
woman you think is horrible. You're raped.
I admit I have trouble resisting the persistence of some women. I dislike brutality.
She persisted?
I couldn't shake her off. To my exasperation, she followed me everywhere. You must have noticed her this morning at the hunt.
7.
After the hunt, she told me how happy she was to see me again. She asked me to go to her room tonight or to let her come to mine.
It wasn't in her room that I imagined you romancing.
And to which of the women here had your imagination consigned me?
To which? To Julie, I think.
Julie is a most agreeable woman, but I have never paid attention to her. Did you think I was that intimate with her?
I know what I'm talking about. Come, tell me about Julie.
Julie, I'm sure Julie is not dying of cold as I am at this moment.
I don't care if you freeze to death. You deserve punishment. Tell me about her.
I can only see one way to tell you the story.
And that is?
To let me into bed with you.
Is that all?
That's all, so I can stop shivering.
Have you lost your mind? What kind of a woman do you think I am?
Summer chills are so dangerous. I'm trying to save my life.
You're insane. You ought to be locked up.
Could you doubt my respect for you?
I don't want to make you risk losing it.
Just think. We're alone. All your servants are far away, even Justine, and besides, she's so hard to wake up. If I lost control, you would be nearly defenseless. To me, you are the most pleasant woman in the world. But I am, after all, well-behaved, very well-behaved. And I don't see why I would be any less well-behaved in your bed than out of it.
I will never consent.
In that case, madame?
No, monsieur, let go of me or I will never see you again.
They hear you screaming. Suppose someone came.
I don't care what they think. You are presuming on my friendship. And that is infamous. No. Let go of me, I tell you.
There. You're free.
You are detestable. What will my people think tomorrow when they find you in my bed?
Nothing at all. I'll make the bed before I leave.
I can just imagine what that will look like.
You'll see. Come closer. My peaceful demeanor should reassure you.
Try any more tricks and I will hate you forever.
All right.
No propositions, no matter how mild.
Very well.
That would only deepen your disgrace.
Yes, I don't know how others feel, but I have never enjoyed being rejected.
Are you warmer now?
A bit. Why?
Because I hope you're not going to spend all night in my bed.
Alone? Certainly not.
Why do you persist in occupying a bed where you are not wanted when there are so many others in this house where you'd be welcomed with open arms?
Which other beds?
You say you want no part of Armand, and I believe you, but if Julie?
The truth is, Julie doesn't attract me any more than Armand does.
Admit she did tempt you, though.
Tempt me? I don't know. I admit that if Julie were willing, I would not resent her as I do that other creature.
You think Julie has more of the sensitivity, the passion that amuses you?
So you believe that when we find this trait in women, it makes up for everything else?
It makes you forgive a lot of things in them.
A notion not all men would agree with.
You are unfair to us on this point, and many others. When a woman behaves like Armand, she bores you. If one exhibits what Armand likes, she shocks you. Does she truly love love? If so, she alarms you. You're afraid of her. Then how must they be to please you?
Like you, madame.
You know nothing about me.
Men gossip sometimes.
What? I'm horrified.
Would our vanity be fed by a conquest no one knew about?
My God, how we're abused.
Why should you care what I know about you? I've known for ages I mean nothing to you.
Are you trying to persuade me that you're in love with me?
Didn't you know?
No.
I confess I thought you were better informed.
Then you've made great plans, allowed yourself desperate hopes.
Do you chide me for it?
Instead of tormenting me as you do and harboring ridiculous worldly pretensions, why not do as I wish? Why not leave my bed and my room?
Since I have the misfortune to displease you, I would obey you instantly if you weren't in danger.
Danger?
Armand will surely go looking for me tonight. I fear that if I open your door, I will find her at mine. You recall my bedchamber is directly across the hall from yours.
Who put you in there?
If you don't know, who does?
When do you reckon to leave me?
Tomorrow morning. I'll be gone before your servants come.
And where will I sleep?
In your bed, of course. Beside me.
What if Justine comes in before you leave in the morning? Seeing that I've let you lie beside me, could she possibly think I have nothing to reproach myself for? No, I refuse. And I doubt that Armand would pay you a visit. Besides, it's getting late. Again, monsieur, I must ask you to leave. I insist upon it.
Yet in view of the feelings you inspire in me, what can you fear? I am so blissful when we're together as we are now. Don't you believe I love you?
No. I do know that at times I rouse desire in you, but desire is not love. Even if you express it with something resembling passion, I've had too much experience of the world to be fooled. Innumerable women have the same effect on you that I do.
You choose to believe that.
Listen, we've been friends for a long time, so I'll forget all these little impulses. As often as not, they're merely flirtatious. In return, you can spare me the frivolous jargon and the duplicity with which you deceive so many people. It would be abject of you to speak to me of love without feeling it yourself. You owe me better than that.
I've loved you since the first happy moment I saw you.
If that's so, admit that you felt free to look for distractions.
You were attached to someone else.
Perhaps, but if you had truly loved me, you would have shown me some tenderness. At least that's what anyone else would have done. But we all have our own rules of conduct.
I'd have upset you.
Possibly. I do like my tranquility, I confess. I do not perpetually think of migrating from one man's arms to another's. I have a heart that's tender and true. Yet I'm considered a seductress. I want people to forget me.
Your mood won't last forever. Yes, you were born tender-hearted. It's true that unhappiness has made you afraid of love, but it hasn't destroyed your need to love. Your friend is back.
I heard him.
He's not bothering you?
He would be if I were trying to sleep. Could he be bothering you?
He came back at the wrong moment. You were about to tell me that you loved me.
All I was about to say, and all I must say now, is that of all men, I esteem you the most highly.
Then can I finally declare my love for you?
That's all you've been doing.
Madame.
You are in no further danger of death by freezing. Remember, you still owe me the story about Julie.
I have nothing to say about Julie, and besides, if you knew what a bad storyteller I am in bed.
Get out of it, then.
Why am I always the one who has to tell the stories? Haven't you any to tell me?
Nothing of this sort. Well, about Julie.
If anyone writing up our experience placed us in this interesting situation and then suddenly embarked upon another story, his readers would certainly skip over it.
I don't see what's so interesting about our situation. Either we talk about Julie or we don't talk at all.
Are you absolutely certain I possessed her?
Are you going to tell me you didn't?
I did, but only for an afternoon. Do you call that possessing a woman?
Tell me.
You remember how hot it was last summer?
Yes, it was suffocating.
I went to see her one day. I found her alone in a small drawing room with all the windows closed. Flowing drapes dimmed the light even more. Julie was sprawled carelessly on a sofa, wearing a plain bodice and a skirt that scarcely hid her legs. Her head was bare, her hair was down. You know how pretty she is.
Yes, pretty rather than beautiful.
She had often tempted me, and I told her so a few times just in passing. That day, I felt like telling her again. Her position was charming, and my arrival did not move her to alter it in the least. She looked at me. Did you know she is studying at the Institute and sometimes gives dinners for the leading lights of the Academy of Science?
Yes, she thinks she knows something about physics, so?
I'd often teased her about imagining herself a scientist. That day, she felt she had to prove it to me. She launched into a discussion about the effects of heat.
Heat?
Heating the humors relaxes the fibers in our tissues, dilates the arteries, and slows the movement of the blood. Once our wits are scattered, hence the weakening that dissipates our energy.
Did you contradict her?
Instantly. I do not share your opinion. It is just the opposite. My heart seems to beat faster in the heat, and my blood flows faster through my veins.
All the books on physiology dispute you. I am sure you're wrong.
Not as far as I'm concerned.
On a day like today, for example, I do not know of a man who would not be completely lifeless, even in the arms of the most generous of women.
I'm afraid you're mistaken.
I am not. I am sure of what I say. And the best physicists in the world agree with me. Heat softens our humors and wipes out desireness.
One can be an eminent physicist and still be wrong about this. Perhaps great men judge only by themselves.
By whom would you have them judge?
By me.
If the man exists who is not diminished by heat, that man is a freak.
Were you such a freak?
I had been for more than a quarter of an hour, madame.
I don't think of myself that way.
Monsieur, you are like all ignoramuses. You argue against the evidence.
Miracles can happen.
Not in this case.
Physicists don't always have to be right.
Physics is a science.
You force me to convince you, madame.
Scoundrel.
What more convincing proof could I offer?
Then what happened?
Madame, she was stunned. I have never seen a philosopher so humiliated. I told her that her stubbornness had forced me to make my demonstration.
That it was her fault?
That there are exceptions to every rule, which she ought to admit, if only for her own sake. And I added, "Now, madame, for the honor of physics, you cannot refuse to carry this experiment through to its end. So far, I have only half refuted your position."
What do you mean, half refuted?
Why, so far, you only have appearances to go on, and they might not stand up under more decisive testing. They might weaken. After all, it's so hot.
What did she say?
She didn't say anything. She feared I might think her too easily defeated. She wanted to humiliate me to test my weakness. Add to that the peculiar situation.
Strange moment.
She sighed tenderly, blushed a little. Her eyes, shining with a fire that belied her stern manner, all announced to me that she was eager for enlightenment. To avoid interruptions in the important lesson I was prepared to give her, I went and shut the door and returned to prove her opinion incorrect.
I'm sure you convinced her.
Yes, but with some difficulty. I had to torment her cruelly.
But she finally admitted her mistake.
Yes, she surrendered. She was thoroughly edified.
I believe you.
You flatter me.
Yes, but I don't want you to enlighten me too. It's all too scholarly for me.
But suppose you were mistaken.
About what?
When you told me how you feel.
Monsieur, that Julie was wrong about others' condition is understandable, but I cannot be wrong about the sort of person I am.
I admire you.
You began your instructions so well. Was it limited to that one day?
Shh.
What's wrong? Can you hear someone?
I'm back in my prison.
Again?
What are you doing? Why, that music? What are you celebrating? Tell me, are they going to release you? Or are you leaving me? Chicken?
What do you want?
Who sent you?
Stay with me and save my life, please.
First, tell me who sent you.
I'll tell you later. Just let me love you. I want you badly. Oh!
I suddenly realized it was a trap, that I was being tested, put on trial, and that I was being watched through the hole in the wall. I stayed alone in my cell, glad to be alone. I had resisted a temptation, at last.
And the chicken and the wine?
They had also been sent by my neighbor. It was my birthday. I had forgotten, but she knew.
How can you be attracted to a woman you can't see?
I myself was surprised. I would never have believed it possible.
Weren't you hoping to become her lover?
I'm not sure.
But you thought you might.
Of course.
In prison?
It's happened before.
You really do have an odd opinion of women. And I confess I'm afraid that someday I could be its victim.
What opinion?
That we're only here for your pleasure.
I don't feel the same way about all women.
I would be humiliated.
I've always hated to conquer women in a way that humiliated them. That unknown woman in prison forced me to think of her in a different way.
Are you warm now?
I think so.
Then, monsieur, leave my bed at once.
Don't you have any stories to tell that might amuse me?
None.
I'm going. As you can see, I am returning your property.
And take yourself out of my room so I can sleep.
I'm on my way.
How can anyone have a woman like Julie for a single afternoon?
It was entirely her choice. She was very much involved with someone else, and besides, not all women have the same needs. Would you like to hear more?
No, go away.
You're not going back to bed?
When you're gone.
I only wanted to talk about my love for you.
Is that really what you meant to do?
Yes, madame. And my love for you was born long before tonight.
That's not a discussion I care to enter into. Leave me. If you insist, I will tell you a story. But you must swear to keep it a secret.
For life.
You will think me singularly bold.
I hope so.
I once had a passionate desire for a man I couldn't possibly show in public.
And?
I used a stratagem. Would you like to hear it?
I'm burning with curiosity.
He had arranged to spend half an hour with one of the girls in the opera. I persuaded her to lend me her dress and mask and let me take her place.
Your passion was satisfied?
More fully than I'd hoped.
You paid the girl.
Certainly, with the money the man had given me.
If you can risk so much simply for your pleasure, why do you resist me?
For at least two reasons.
Which are?
You are not the man I desire.
And the second reason?
He doesn't know he had me.
You're deceiving yourself. He does know.
What?
He told me all about it. He recognized you.
That's impossible. You're lying.
He told me he recognized your laugh when you reached your climax. It's a laugh I don't know, I'm sorry to say. I know him well. He's the Comte.
Get out. I hate you.
What if I raised the whole house? If I said I slept with you?
What?
What if I shouted it everywhere? What would you give me to shut me up?
This is very unfunny clowning.
What if I used other means?
Like what?
Like this. What if I said, Madame, I am at my wit's end, and I am capable of anything. Lie down, take off your nightdress, and yield to me, or I shall pierce without mercy that heart that resists me. You place great importance on your honor. You never think of mine.
It's nowhere to be seen.
At least think of my reputation.
What do you mean, that you won't keep this incident quiet? That you boast of promoting it? Of treating me indelicately?
Perhaps I'll hint that you granted me certain favors.
What favors? Either I grant nothing or I grant them all.
All? Very well.
Stop this at once, monsieur. You don't know me. I would never raise a cry against you. That would only publicize my foolishness. Temper tantrums and fits of self-righteousness are not my style. No, I won't make a fuss. But you won't have me either, and if you press me, you'll be sorry, because I will break with you forever. The choice is yours to make.
How far I am from the happiness you seem to promise me.
I promise you?
Why take offense at what my love might attempt? I respect you, I worship you, I'm perishing of desire for you. You know all that. But have my hands wandered?
How do you describe your attack on me?
Didn't I restrain myself? My effort at self-control should at least prove how I feel about you.
I admire men, and I often reflect with fright on how impulsive they can be. No, I do not inspire you love. You didn't come here to be tender toward me. You were bored and alone with me at night. You would probably like a spicy adventure to relate. This ardent passion you're trying to convince me of owes much to the circumstances we're in.
I have never attacked a woman I felt nothing for, simply to glory in conquest. Now be fair and admit that I have never been a ridiculous Don Juan.
What are you doing? Now what do you want?
Give me your hand to kiss. Don't be afraid. Why do you go out of your way to accuse me? You chided me for keeping silent. Do you doubt me because I never dared tell you that I loved you? Could I have told you without offending you? I knew of your attachments, and I could not think of you as fickle or disloyal. But then I found you free. At last, as free as I was. And so I haunted your footsteps. I went only where I could thrill to sing you. Go on hating me, then. You will see that I shall always prefer your scorn to another's favors.
If I were to give you my heart and all that I would bestow with it, I would be plunged back into the terrible situation from which I have just emerged. My blood still runs cold when I recall my misery. No, I cannot consider love with anything but horror.
Why this sorry state of mind? My conduct until now must reassure you about the future.
It does the very opposite.
Look at me. Is being in my arms going to terrify you forever? Again, I've exposed myself to your displeasure. I can see I'm the last man you would surrender to. I've blinded myself to it for a long time.
Perhaps.
You have become a stranger to me.
It's time you left me alone.
I'll do more than that. I'll leave you forever. Farewell, madame. I am going.
What are you looking for?
My dressing gown, so I can withdraw decently.
It's rather late to think of the proprieties. I'll give it to you.
Do you feel so little regret at losing me? Do you hate me so much that you would crush the one man in the world who loves you most?
You know I don't hate you.
Then speak more sweetly to me now that you are losing me.
The fact is, I adore you. So once more, my heart is alive with the feelings that have made my life a misery. Oh, why did you work so hard to revive them? For I didn't know. I tried not to know what instinct was pulling me toward you, or how powerful it is.
Come into my arms.
One moment.
Hurry.
No, now that I have finally given you my heart, you cannot doubt that eventually you'll be master of the rest. But give me time. Let me grow accustomed to my weakness. Leave me.
No.
If you were my first love, you wouldn't find me so fearful, but the heart I am bringing you is much used, and it cost you so little that you might sneer at it later on.
You love me, yes you do. I've known it for some time. Your insistence on inviting me, your eagerness to see me, your irritation when all these women arrived, the worried, troubled way you look at me, your bitterness toward the other women, all this informed me that you love me.
I couldn't help myself.
Stop using your sensitivity to torture yourself.
How can I avoid worrying? Someday you may find a million reasons to despise me.
What you are doing is the wildest folly. Don't you love me after all? Your behavior belies your speech. At least grant something to my desire.
You won't be able to restrain yourself.
Your lips.
And nothing else, you'll keep your word.
Can you doubt it?
Traitor.
Come, please drop this tone. It isn't suitable. Why such ceremony? You make me doubt that you love me.
Never doubt that.
Yet you take no pleasure at all in kissing me. Open them.
What?
Open your nightgown and let me look at you.
I don't want to.
But I want you to.
Now I see how much I can count on you. Aren't you ashamed?
How can I change? Every time I regain my composure, you do your utmost to make me lose my mind.
Oh?
Yes, and you're forever shouting and protesting when I'm the one who should be offended.
What?
You refused me the most ordinary kindness.
I can see I'll always be in the wrong.
It is because you are too singular.
I thought that was why you loved me.
Given the reasons we're together, it's you who are being unfair to love.
I feel you. I can feel you close to me.
It doesn't make you angry.
No. I even feel like being a little less cruel.
You are probably wondering why. Since I told you long ago that I love you, I didn't surrender right away. It's true that things happen quickly these days. As soon as a woman declares her feelings, we think the rest is routine. But not always. When desire is real, time can only sharpen it. And sometimes the feeling we thought was lost swells in us again, vulnerable but true. A feeling that is essential for life.
Good day, madame. We have orders to escort you. Are you prepared?
What is happening? Are they taking you away? Are you leaving? Where are you going?
Don't shout. Shouting is useless in a prison.
Who is that woman? Where is she going?
I cannot in any circumstances tell you that.
At least tell me what she's accused of. Perhaps you're wrongly convicting her.
Perhaps. Justice is a constant subject of discussion.
And constantly disputed.
In general, though, it does rather well by us. This morning, we sentenced 3 men to death. 2 of them thoroughly deserved it.
Where are you going? Turn around! Look at me!
Still writing these scabrous stories, even in prison?
Especially in prison.
Why so much attention to debauchery? Why so much propaganda in favor of vice?
Because virtue needs it.
Why don't you use your fine talent to write more exemplary tales?
Yes, but you wouldn't read them.
Some officials think all books without exception are dangerous.
Yes, but especially the good ones.
Since we can neither tolerate everything nor ban everything, should we burn the books or the writers?
You know what one of your kind said?
What's that?
Monsieur de Richelieu.
And what did he say?
Give me 3 lines that a man has written, and I'll find a reason to hang him.
Then I have more than I need.
Did you come here to discuss literature?
I came for 2 reasons. First, to announce your release.
Am I supposed to thank you?
I didn't expect you to.
And the second reason?
Oh, just to plug up that hole.
You never found out who she was?
Never.
She didn't tell you her life story?
No, not a word. She let me imagine it.
Perhaps she had murdered her lover.
A poisoner, yes, I thought of that. Or a spy. Perhaps she was executed or deported to the colonies. I don't know. I'll never know. But for a few days within those walls, I felt my heart beat as it never did before. An unknown woman. I lived only for her.
I think you were in love with her.
Perhaps. What's wrong? Tell me.
What's wrong is that you are depraved at heart. You succumb to any situation that arises, even an invisible woman in a prison saying you loved her.
You said that. I didn't.
You show a weakness with women that terrifies me. You think they're all extraordinary.
Don't you believe it?
What? You've had a whole garland of them.
What do you expect? We're in the world. We're bored. We see women who aren't enjoying life either. We're young. Having a woman may not always be pleasant, but at least it's an occupation of sorts.
You are detestable.
Now, listen, please. I can scarcely understand today why I chose so tedious and despicable an occupation. At first, in spite of myself, because of a few women's fantasies. Then, my reputation attracted others. What can I say? It turned my head. Look at me. What is worrying you so?
What do you think? The fear of losing you. That woman you loved because you never saw her, never had her, because nothing is so tantalizing as waiting, conquering. Well, now I am conquered. There's nothing more you can wish for from me. Do you still love me?
Of course I do. What you've given me only makes you more desirable.
Do you still say your heart has never beaten so hard as it did in prison?
I'll never say it again. No one has ever been as dear to me as you are. No one ever will be. Ever since the time soon after my release from prison when you invited me here, remember? But when I arrived, seeing Armand and Julie and the others, I lost confidence. I no longer knew. Last night, as I approached your door, I felt horribly shy.
You didn't act shy.
You don't know me. I often use insolence to mask my insecurity.
And then?
And then gradually, I entered a dream. This night has left me tremendously confused.
Why?
Here I was with you, and everything seemed to be happening as it did in the story I wrote in prison.
Exactly.
Almost here with you. At times, I thought I was living through a miracle. I felt lost.
Yes, I noticed that.
It was a strange sensation, so strange that I couldn't believe it was all pure coincidence.
You think not?
I wonder.
Chance can work wonders.
It can't explain everything. How did you do it?
I must inform you that because of your licentious writings, the dangerous company you keep, and your persistent insolence toward constituted authority, you have been consigned to the King's justice.
I had higher hopes for tonight. You too, perhaps.
The governor of the prison is a close friend of mine. As soon as I heard you were arrested, I went to see him.
I presume you have come to ask me to release your friend.
You're wrong. I came to have myself locked up.
Is this some whim of yours?
Far from it.
I can't put you in prison without a valid reason. It's out of the question.
He arrested me. Later, he had the hole made in the wall between our cells. You know the rest.
I don't believe you.
I followed your story as best I could and without knowing the end.
I never wrote the end.
There were moments when I regretted that the story was a bit...
A bit long.
Perhaps. If you hadn't written it that way, I might have surrendered sooner.
But why all the mystification? The hole in the wall, the adjoining cells?
I risked everything to find out who you were, to make your heart beat as it never had before, to show you as you are. You know the saying? You've made a long voyage to discover the voyager. I was only trying to frighten it. I hate being waked out of a sound sleep.
What if it comes back?
I have more arrows.
Morning is coming.
Yes, already.
The night seems so short.
Justin will be in soon.
I don't normally get up before 10. Come into my arms. A minute more.
I don't recognize myself. I've never loved anyone as I do you.
And I've been in love with you twice.
What about my bed? You promised to remake it.
Just watch me.
I've never needed a better made bed.
I don't want to boast, but Justine can't make a better bed than I can.
Nothing that happens between us can be compared to anything else.
One thing troubles me.
What's that?
How are we going to hide our feelings during the day?
We're surrounded by vicious people.
I'm incapable of looking at you without showing my feelings. I can't watch you open your mouth without wanting to close it with kisses. Everything will remind me of the pleasure you've overwhelmed me with, and everything will sharpen my impatience to taste it again. What can we do?
We'll have the nights.
Well, what do you think of my bed?
You're an expert. That implies long experience.
Please, don't be jealous.
And you, please do be.
Me?
Yes, you'd be unfair, suspicious, enraged. Never believe I love you enough. No matter how jealous you are, you will never hear me complain.
A marvelous feeling pervades me for the first time in my life.
Remember, you still owe me a lot of stories.
I'll come and relate them tonight. On second thought, no. I'll never tell you stories again. I've forgotten them all.
In any case, I forbid you to talk to any of the women here.
I'm faithful by nature. You'll be amazed at how steadfast I can be.
Are you leaving now?
I'd better, but I want you to know that I've never been dismissed this early before.
Please go.
Quietly.
Another of my talents is to open a door more quietly than anyone else and to walk with incomprehensible lightness.
I'd give all your talents for the certainty that you'd be faithful to me.
Why must we hide our love?
I think I've been waiting for you to ask me that.
Why must we only live at night? Why shouldn't I remain here now and later on for everyone to see?